Hi, this is Denise at Square MicroFarm. Now this is Work in Progress Wednesday, and here I am. I'm back at the floor loom. This is the 22-inch Harrisville Designs jack looms 4-shaft loom. And right now I'm working on a scarf, or that's what I think it's going to be, and 8/4 cotton. I have a pattern here of 7 threads, 7 threads, 7 threads, 7 threads, 14 in the middle, and then 7, 7, 7, 7 alternating. And I've got the loom warped up in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1 pattern, and I'm treadling in a straight 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern. And I'm still working on twills, kind of obsessed with twills. And so you can see how this is working out in the really nice twill pattern. And I can't wait to see what this looks like when it comes off the loom. At the moment I have 4 different shuttles. I have a shock shuttle right here. I have the Harrisville Design shuttle. It didn't come with the loom, but a friend gave it to me and it matches the loom. And then this one, I don't remember what this one is. I think it's mentioned on the inside. And one more that I've lost, can't seem to find. And I have to say that of all the shuttles, that is my favorite, is the shock. And one of the reasons I like it the most is because see how the ends tip up? And so when it's going through, it goes through really smooth because it's tipped up and it does not come in contact with any of the other threads that are in the down position in the shed. Sometimes when I'm going really fast, some of the other shuttles, see how the threads are just a little bit off of the race. They're not completely all the way down. And sometimes if I got a tricky work, I'll use one of the sticks from the other rigid heddle to hold that down, but it slows me down, of course. So sometimes when I'm going really fast, the shuttles that are like this will push up threads that should be down, so they get caught. But because the shock has that little bit of that tip up on it, when I set it on here and push it through, it goes very smoothly across the shed and it doesn't catch any of the threads underneath. That's what I'm working on the rigid heddle, or sorry, on the floor loom. Now on the rigid heddle loom, because of course I have more than one project going on all the time. On the rigid heddle loom, I am working on inkle bands. And a lot of times people think when you say inkle bands, it has to be on the inkle loom, but inkle is just an old word that means tape. And historically, the rigid heddle loom is more historic than the inkle loom is. The rigid heddle, either used as a tape loom or as it's a giant paddle that was held between the knee, is a traditional way of producing these narrow inkle bands. And it was only, I think it said in the 30s, I have to find an article for you, that the inkle loom was actually created. And so if you're into a lot of historical accuracy, which I am a lot of times, then actually the rigid heddle loom is more historically accurate. It does have some drawbacks when you're using the rigid heddle loom, and it's different looms in particular have these particular drawbacks, but you can use it. In this case, I'm using the Ashford Sample It, and this is the 8-inch width, and this is the 8 dent reed. And the only problem I find with the Sample It is because when you lift the heddle, which I'm trying to do with one hand and hold the camera with the other, there's not enough space to put this heddle back behind the block. And if I had that extra space back there, I could weave my bands a little better because it wouldn't be so close to the work. So I just have to advance it more frequently than I would wish to. I know there are some like the Becca that don't have that heddle block, and I always thought that was odd till now. So maybe I'll get myself a little Becca in order to weave the bands. This was a lot easier for me to really think up, as opposed to the card weaving, which I did try. It seemed very confusing. And the inkle loom. So it was a lot easier for me to start doing the narrow bands on the rigid heddle, because I'm so used to using heddle looms. Worked up quickly. This is 8/4 cotton, which is the same cotton as the scarf down here. It's just something I had on hand, and I mean it works up pretty well. It's not as hard packing as you would normally get from something on an inkle band, but it works out pretty well. This is my inkle sampler. It's going to be a dog leash for the one that Dylan ate. So I'm really enjoying the inkle bands for now. I'm not knitting anything. I just finished, and sad to say, because I should have finished it, but I got distracted. I was almost done and got distracted. I just finished the scarf from the Angora spin-along. I had to finish like the last 2 inches. So here it is, and it is probably about 80% Angora, maybe a little more than that. It was like 1.5 ounces of Angora and 0.5 ounces of silk and like 0.3 ounces of yarn of wool or something like that. And so this is what it looks like. It was a little stiff when I first started, and I was kind of concerned about it, but I did not remember that silk softens up as you work it. So as I began knitting and kind of moving it around, it worked out just fine. It still needs to be washed and blocked. I used the wool in it because, you know, I like to use 100% Angora most of the time. But the first one I did with 100% Angora was way too much bloom for me. I kind of like a more moderate bloom. So I had to add just a little bit of wool to it and a little bit of silk. The silk for the color, so that I would get a better, see, now you can see the color a little better. So the silk for the color and the wool to tamp down the halo just a bit. Get you a good look at it. And this pattern is the Juliet Scarf, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And you can read more about that on my blog, where I explain the whole thing, whole process. Alright, that's Work in Progress Wednesday. At some point I'll get back to the spinning. I left some brown alpaca and wool, or Shetland wool, over there on the spinning wheel. I started the first roll, and I was going to make some gloves and a matching scarf, and I got a little distracted with the ankle bands, so I'll get back to that before the winter is over. And Pepper's coming to say hi. Say hi, Pepper, as usual. Hi, Pepper. Alright, back to work. See you later.